This is What's Wild in New Hampshire by wildlife biologist Eric Orff. Hey, I'm with Jill. Jill, we're at Fish and Game headquarters here. I should show that. And look, the tents are up. Saturday's Discover Wild New Hampshire Day. Things are cranking here today. So, Jill, this is for Women's History Month. Give us some history. What's it like? Give us a day in Jill's life in northern New Hampshire, in the big woods. Yeah, and introduce yourself with your name and all that stuff, so we'll know who you are. This is for historical purposes.
Okay, my name's Jill Kilborn, and as Eric said, I'm a wildlife biologist with New Hampshire Fish and Game, working for the Habitat program primarily. So I work in Coos County, and I manage the 25,000 acre Connecticut Lakes Natural Area, which is our biggest wildlife management area in the state.
It's twice the size of any other.
Twice the size, yeah, easily. And so I do anything from road management to make sure people have access to that property, to habitat management, so doing different types of projects to enhance wildlife habitat, to even dealing with surveying for different wildlife species on the property. So bird surveys, mammal surveys, you name it.
So how did you get the job as a wildlife biologist for the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department? You and I go back a ways. When I was the fur bear biologist, you were working on a pine marten study for your graduate work, and I did spend a day with you, although we didn't get a marten that day, but which leaves me without a marten sighting. But are there more martens? Let's talk a little bit about martens. So talk about the study, and let's talk about martens a little bit.
So that takes me back to some of the early part of my career here at Fish and Game. When I first started working for the department back in 2000, realized that American marten had been on the threatened endangered species list since we actually enacted the threatened endangered species list in the state, which is in the 1976, I think it was. So I quickly realized that we needed to kind of collect information on martens. So as part of my graduate research, I did a broad scale live trapping effort to try and figure out where we had them. So I trapped everywhere from the White Mountain National Forest all the way up to Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, and actually found them in quite a few different places during that effort. So from that, we actually created a model where we figured marten would be most likely in the state, and gave us the capability of tracking marten recovery over time.
And how's it gone?
And it went really well. So I am
good news.
Super excited that in 2017 we were actually able to take marten off the threatened species list.
Nice.
And they're now considered a species of special concern here in New Hampshire.
So more abundant now than it had been for a long time.
Yes. So I think we just kind of hit a point where the population took off, and marten seem to be doing quite well. They interact with fisher as well, so there's probably some kind of dynamics that are going on there as well.
Okay.
Yep.
What other things have you done on the job here, and say during or before your current position? What are some of the things you do in the North Country? And give me a day in the life of Jill. What do you?
Sure.
Give me a. Well, you can pick the day out of your memory.
Well, I started actually in the fisheries division. So I got my foot in the door with Fish and Game, actually working seasonally as a fisheries technician for 2 summers. And then when I graduated from my undergraduate degree at UNH, I then got a job working with the wildlife division doing nuisance bear work. So I actually worked with nuisance bears for a summer up in Berlin and then in Lincoln, where we had some research going on up there.
Okay.
From there, I quickly got picked up out of the Region 1 office, filled in for some other staff that were getting their master's degree, so I was doing just general technician work. Then I worked for the non-game program for 3 or 4 years before I went and actually got my master's degree.
So you were down here for a while?
No, I actually was out of the Region 1 office.
Okay, I was going to say, I can't remember seeing you in this office.
Yeah, but during that time I was tracking osprey and eagle populations primarily, because they were just starting to come back up there. So I was monitoring all the nests.
And both of them doing very well.
Yes, both of them actually have been delisted as well, which is a great success story. After that, I got into the marten work. Have done quite a bit of marten research, then also did some work with lynx, which has been the most recent research that I've been working on.
The missing lynx.
Missing lynx. So over the past 6 years, I've been working with a PhD student out of UMass Amherst and the Northeast Climate Science Adaptation Center.
Okay.
And we were documenting lynx occurrence across New Hampshire and Vermont as part of that study.
So are you seeing climate change impacting fishing wildlife in the North Country?
I think
You know,
for
you've been
sure.
at it 20-something years now. What have you seen?
Yeah, so our winters up north definitely, I feel like, have gotten shorter, and we don't seem to be getting as much snow. And I think one of the other significant impacts for a lot of our wildlife are these freeze-thaw cycles that we get. So a lot of snow that gets this hard crust, and as a result you get mobility changes that happen for a lot of our different wildlife species, and it can impact them and their abilities to interact with one another and the habitats that they use, for sure. So yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So it's changes that you've witnessed in your career.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So as I said, give us a day right now within the last year or two on the job. Give us a fun day of things you might do in a day.
So I really enjoy the habitat management portion of my job now. So I actually do a lot of work in the forest and actually collecting information about different habitats on the WMA that I manage and figuring out ways to enhance those habitats for wildlife. So I'm thinking a lot about how the forest is layered and all the different species that utilize all those different layers within the forest, and then what types of management we can do on the ground to enhance all that layering that's in that forest. So I actually have a project that I'm doing right now where I'm laying out a timber sale and actually figuring out commercially how we can cut the trees to enhance that habitat in that area.
Wow.
So it's really cool to get out there. So I'm measuring trees and I'm looking at the wildlife that's out there and what we want out there, and then going back and seeing if we get that result.
So a recipe for success for our wildlife, basically.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nice, Jill. That is awesome. All right, Jill. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and the hard work you're doing. You're making history every day. Thank you, Jill. This is wildlife biologist Eric Orr for What's Wild in New Hampshire.